Another really important piece of inequality is that almost in every country there are often groups that are excluded from labor markets, excluded from credit markets, discriminated against, and that has a big impact on inequality. And so, different types of sort of discrimination or exclusion could be country of citizenship, right? Are you a citizen of this country or not? Gender is almost everywhere important when discussing inequality, as can be race or ethnicity. Are you a member of some minority group that faces discrimination? And that can really result in a segmented labor market in which people of very similar qualities and productivity can be paid different wages, and that increases inequality, as we will see. So, if we think about inequality, we can think about sort of inequality both uh, within countries, within sort of families within the world, and also inequality between countries. So these uh, data points up here, these blue dots, represent inequality among families, ignoring national boundaries. And you can see it hasn't changed that much over the last 30 years. It's fairly high. Um, while at the same time, if we imagine that every person in the country had the sort of real GDP per capita as their income, income inequality between countries has really fallen, right? So as India, as China, as the other East Asian tigers have grown, inequality between countries has fallen. But that means that inequality within countries has increased. And so inequality within India, within China, and other countries that have begun to develop has increased. And we often see that as when countries begin to industrialize, uh, there are some families, some people that get very rich, whereas there are others that remain quite poor. So that we can see the difference between the blue dots and the line represents the within country inequality, which has been increasing. Gender has been uh, throughout history a major piece of economic inequality and continues to be so. We can see that in the United States, at all education levels, women are paid less than their male counterparts. Um, we can control for, experience, education, occupation, industry, and we still see discrimination. A lot of it has to do, in the United States these days, with time taken off to raise children, which still falls disproportionately on women, and they are often punished for it in the labor market when they return to work. The good news in terms of gender inequality is that women around the world have been receiving more and more education. So if we take the ratio of girls to boys years of schooling, we can see that it's basically one in the United States, slightly above one in France and Brazil, and has been rising fast in China, in India, even in Tanzania. Um, and so as women increase their education levels, they are more likely to enter the labor force. They're more likely to work outside the home and earn income. That usually increases their power, both in terms of political power and in terms of power within the household. So this is one positive step, but it can't be the only step. So when we have these groups that face discrimination, whether it's because of gender or whether it's because of race or ethnicity, we can end up with what is called a segmented labor market. And a segmented labor market basically means that there's some group that is going to be paid less than another group for doing similar work. That could be based on immigration status, it could be based on race, it could be based on gender, it could be based on ethnicity. But that means that there's going to be some group of people, right? So say there's this group of people between 10% and 50% that are getting paid a lower wage, well, that means that's going to increase their inequality. Whereas the next group between 50 and 90% get paid more, they have a steeper slope. and that means we have higher inequality than we would have. So if we got rid of gender discrimination, if we got rid of racial discrimination, if people were paid the same no matter what their national identity, origin, we would have less income inequality in this country or in any other country than we currently do.